What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host Josh, and we are back for another Canadian Men's National Team Abroad series. This is going to be your guys' roundup from November 22nd to November 29th to take a look at how all your Canucks did abroad over the weekend, as there's a lot of Champions League games, Europa League games, even some midweek clashes that we got to talk about. So if you guys like this series, be sure to drop a like on today's video, drop a sub as well, as we do this each and every week to give you guys your roundup. And let's get into the video now. Alright guys, so like we always do with these roundup, we are going to start with our big five, and the first player on our list, which is our first player on every list, it's Alphonso Davies. So let's take a look at how Alphonso Davies did midweek as his side Bayern Munich took on Dynamo Kiev. It was a relatively straightforward kind of matchup for Bayern, as they're already through to the round of 16, and they went to a very snowy Ukraine where Alphonso Davies started, played all 90 minutes as a left back in a 4-2-3-1, and despite the conditions, I mean, our Edmonton boy there knew exactly what he was getting into playing in the snow, and it wouldn't be surprising to hear that Alphonso Davies had an excellent matchup. He played very, very well throughout the game. He picked up the man of the match, and Bayern went on to win 2-1 with a gorgeous goal, a nice bicycle kick from Robert Lewandowski, which puts them now 5-0-0 in their Champions League group as they sit top of the table. At the weekend, though, it was a bit of a different story, as Alphonso Davies started once again playing all 90 minutes, still as a left back in the 4-2-3-1. They took out Arminia Bielefeld, who is a tricky little team, knowing that Dortmund won earlier that day, and as standings went into the match, Dortmund were in first, but Bayern looked like for a while there they weren't going to be able to find a way through, but Leroy Sané with a nice goal in the end got them a very scrappy little 1-0 victory for Bayern to put them top of the Bundesliga standings with a 10-1-2 record to sit in first. Wasn't as easy as Bayern would have liked it to be, but they found a way nonetheless, and Davies playing a good part role as well as a left back position as Bayern keep rolling and sitting top of the Bundesliga standings. Moving on now to the second player in our big five, we're going to take a look at Jonathan David, who was also in Champions League action over midweek. Jonathan David played and started all 90 minutes as Lille had a really impressive win against Salzburg. Salzburg have been very incredible in this group so far, and they look to be the team that was going to top the group, but Group of Life seemed to be the Group of Life, and with that, unfortunately for Salzburg, they're starting to slip, but fortunately for Lille and Jonathan David, who did score a goal in that match, Lille now sit first place in that group with a 2-2-1 record, and Jonathan David picks up his second ever Champions League goal. Pretty impressive performance for him and Lille as they keep rolling in the Champions League. At the weekend, though, Lille drew against Nantes, which was a bitter result for Lille, but also a bitter result for Jonathan David, as he's got 10 goals in the season, looking to get his 11th. It was a 1-1 matchup until a red card happened and led to a penalty shot for Jonathan David. And it looked, I mean, the form he's in, you'd expect him to put that in the back of the net. It wasn't the most confident penalty, which it's not saying that Jonathan David wasn't confident going into it, because we know that he absolutely was. I just think he misread the situation, didn't take the strongest penalty. It was saved in the end, and Lille have a frustrating 1-1 result, and they have not had a win in a very long time in the league, as in the league right now they sit in 13th place with a 4-6-5 record. Not what you really want to see. But David had a really positive result midweek against Salzburg, as did Lille, but they need to really find a way to bounce back and get the results rolling in the league. Taking a look at the third player in our big five, we're taking a look at CYLE, LARIN, his side Besiktas, who once again for this roundup go winless and have another week to forget. We're going to start in the Champions League, as CYLE, LARIN in the Champions League started as a striker in a 4-2-3-1, playing all 90 minutes. But unfortunately for Besiktas, as their Champions League story did not change, they lost 2-1 against Ajax to sit 0-0-5 in the basement of the Champions League. Tough one there. It was a better matchup for them, but we know how tough Ajax is, and they were hoping to bounce back at the weekend. But LARIN and Besiktas have another match to forget, as CYLE, LARIN started and played all 90 minutes as a center attacking mid, a new kind of system and position for him, still in that 4-2-3-1. And unfortunately, though, for Besiktas, they lost 4-0 at home. A horrid performance. A red card had a big part in that. CYLE, LARIN did have a few good chances with the head, one creating a big save and one just missing by the near post as a decent cross from Pjanic. But with this result, Besiktas now sit 10th in the table with a 6-2-6 record, losing 6 straight matches in all competitions. Unbelievable right there. You wouldn't expect it. We need CYLE, LARIN to find a way to get back on form. He's playing decently well in a team that's just really slipping, but I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of pressure on the manager. There's been even a nice little link to Edin Terzic, which is very interesting. As we know, Edin Terzic was an assistant manager for Slaven Bilic over at Besiktas a few years ago. I don't know how legitimate this link was. I just thought it was an interesting one, so I'd put it in there, but something has to change because this Besiktas side is too good to be sitting 10th in the table. Moving on to our fourth player in the Big Five, and it is going to be LARIN's teammate, Hutchinson. And unfortunately for Hutchinson, as I just talked about with the results, they weren't very good, losing both the Champions League and at the weekend. And Hutch didn't have a big part to play. He came on in the 81st minute in the Ajax match, and he did not feature at all in the destruction at the weekend, losing 4-0 for Besiktas. So not too much to give you updated there with Hutch, but for the 38-year-old, a little bit of rest is not too bad. But again, I mean, he's a captain, he's a leader of this side, and they need to figure out a way, somehow to get Besiktas firing once again. And finally, wrapping up our big five for the weekend, we're going to take a look at Stefan EUSTAQUIO, whose side, Pacos de Ferreira, took on Maritimo, and it was a disappointing result for Pacos de Ferreira. EUSTAQUIO did start and play all 90 minutes as a center midfielder in a 4-3-3 system, but they lost 2-0, and with that loss, they sit 12th in the table with a 2-5-5 record. Not the best performance you're going to see. EUSTAQUIO pretty consistent as well. You're never going to get too poor of a match from EUSTAQUIO, but there is an interesting link to talk to you guys about, as, again, no real legitimacy, I don't think, behind this link, but I did see it a little bit going around in a few different sources, and it's that EUSTAQUIO is being linked once again to Porto. As you guys know, after the incredible season EUSTAQUIO had last year, he was linked to Porto. They ended up going for his teammate last year instead, but those links are starting to come back up again. But I really think EUSTAQUIO does need a move. I would love to see it come even as early as January. He's a little, with no disrespect, a little bit too good right now to be playing for Pacos de Ferreira, and I'm hoping a couple teams will be sniffing around one of the top clubs in Portugal. Will be incredible, but we'll have to wait and see, and if there's any legs to that story. But it is interesting to know, and let me know what side you would potentially like to see EUSTAQUIO play for if a team came looking for him. Alright guys, we're doing our first stop on the Canadian national team abroad over in England. We're going to take a look at our good friend Theo Corbeanu, and he had a couple matches to talk about this week. He played midweek as he started and played all 90 minutes for Wednesday as they beat MK Dons 2-1. Theo Corbeanu played as a left wing back, a position that he's certainly making his own. He picked up an assist as well with another really impressive performance for him. And at the weekend, he did not get the start, but probably now that he's actually getting some minutes, he's getting a little bit of rest, which is kind of nice to see. In a way, but it's the only reason the rest is coming is because he's actually starting to play and have an impact player. He didn't get subbed on until the 73rd minute as Wednesday drew against Wycombe 2-2. Theo had 3 shots with only 8 touches as a left wing back position, which is impressive. I mean, to create 3 shots with only 8 touches on net just shows when every time Theo Corbeanu comes on the pitch, he's just an impact kind of player. Wednesday right now sits 7th in the table with an 8-9-3 record. Really good things we want to see there from Theo Corbeanu. I'm pretty confident with the new form he's finding at Wednesday, getting a new lease on life, and in a new couple positions at the right wing back and the left wing back. He should be a good look and potentially a lock to be in the January window. Sticking with League One, we're going to take a look at Daniel Jebsen, a player who I would love to see be involved in the January camp. I don't know if Herman's going to be able to pull some strings and get him to commit this early, but I mean, the man had an incredible week, and with performances like this, it gets every Canadian men's national team fan very excited at the prospect of him lining up with the team in January. He had a match midweek where he started and played all 90 minutes as Burton beat Accrington 4-0. He played as a striker in a new 3-4-3 system, so we get to see Jebsen playing as that lone striker right now, where he scored 2 goals with a very, very impressive performance. At the weekend, he kept that role going as he started and played 88 minutes in that match, scoring a goal as well in the same 3-4-3 system as Burton beat Doncaster 2-0. With those 2 wins in a row, Burton go up to 10th place in the table with an 8-4-8 record. Jebsen has now got 4 goals on the season and has even been linked back to ending his loan to going back to Sheffield United, which I'm kind of on the fence because he's just starting to find a little bit of form right now. He's starting to get comfortable in League One, getting excellent minutes. So I'd hate to see him get recalled and then potentially have to go on the bench. But if Sheffield United are looking to bring him back and start him consistently in the Championship, I wouldn't be against that. But it's all about, as it is with a lot of national team players, you want your player to play. That's exactly what you want to see. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Jebsen there. But he's starting to find form, which is excellent. And maybe a recall, as I'd like to see, that Jebsen will be involved with the Canadian national team. We're going to do a little pit stop in Germany here, guys, just to give you a quick update on Scott Kennedy, who was supposed to be in the starting 11 for his side this weekend, but he pulled out. It was apparently due to an injury, which is just a setback to see, as we know that he's been out for a while. So just a little update there. He was supposed to feature, but he did not. So we hopefully see Scott Kennedy get back on the pitch as soon as he can. Heading on over to Belgium now, guys, we're going to take a look at EK Ugbo, obviously a player that we're very excited to see, and I think he's going to have a way bigger role in the January window than he did in November, obviously just coming in. I just think he's going to have that opportunity to potentially even get a start in January, and with performances like this, that's exactly what you want to see, as we have a couple of different matches to talk about with EK Ugbo. As midweek in the Europa League, Ugbo started for Genk as he played all 90 minutes as they drew against Dynamo Zagreb 1-1. With that result, Ugbo had a very strong performance and scored a great poacher's number 9 goal with a composed finish in the end. And with that, Genk sit 3rd in the group with a 1-2-2 record, with their chances of qualifying coming down to the final match day. At the weekend, Genk lost to Club Brugge 3-2. Tejan's soon-to-be team keeping up a good result there, but not very strong for Genk at the weekend. Ugbo did start, though, and played all 90 minutes once again, as Genk sit 10th in the table with a 6-3-7 record in their winless in their last 5 matches in all competitions. It's amazing to see Ugbo finally start to get those starts that, I mean, he hopefully deserves and gets after that incredible season he had last year, but he needs to keep him going. He needs to find a way to contribute, which he's starting to do, and the results will hopefully come for Genk, because they're too good right now to be sitting in 10th place, and we want to see the best out of them. But it was a good week nonetheless for EK Ugbo. Stopping on over in Denmark, we're going to take a look at MANJREKAR James as his side Violet took on Midtjylland. It was a pretty good result for him. I mean, Midtjylland's one of the sides that always competes at the top of the table, where we know Violet's having a difficult season. MANJREKAR James did start the match playing as the central center back in a 3-4-1-2 system, having a pretty impressive game, as Violet were able to steal a point late, scoring a 90th minute equalizer. Unfortunately though for Violet, they still sit bottom of the table with a 2-3-12 record, but hopefully with performances like this continuing, Violet can start at least trying to get out of the basement of the table, and MANJREKAR James is putting a little bit of highlight around him, because I think he's been getting a crazy good minutes in Denmark right now, and he could be a potential player to take a good look at for the upcoming January window, knowing that some of the MLS players will be a little bit out of form and not being able to play. So he's definitely a curious one to take a look in there, and hopefully the results keep coming from Violet. Moving along to Greece now, we're going to take a little pit stop to say hello to our good guy, Derek Cornelius, whose side Panathinaikos took on Panathinaikos, which was going to be always a tough matchup. Panathinaikos is always a team that does pretty well in the Greece League. They unfortunately lost 2-0 in that matchup, and with it, they now sit 2-2-7 record with 12th in the table. Not a really good result there, but Derek Cornelius still keeps the minutes coming, as he played all 90 minutes playing as a center back in a 4-2-3-1. It's not the results that you want to see from Derek Cornelius and his side this season, as they've been really struggling. But again, when it comes down, it's kind of similar to MANJREKAR James. Cornelius is starting, is playing, and is still being consistent, which is going to be so important, seeing these minutes in this the form on some of these players when it comes for January. They're still pretty solid. It's one of those games where Panathinaikos is one of the best at the table and made it tough for him, but it's still good to see our boy starting, and hopefully he'll be able to get recalled and be a part of the January window. We are doing our very first stop in South Korea to say hello to Daniel Henry, a player who I probably should have touched on a little bit more in some of these roundups, but it's time to finally touch on him now, as his side, Suwon Blue Wings, took on Ulsan Hyundai in a 0-0 draw. It was a relatively boring type matchup, but there's a couple of interesting points I would like to talk about, as Henry played all 90 minutes as the outside right center back in a 3-5-2 system. With that draw, Suwon sits 6th in the table with a 12-10-15 record as the season's coming close to an end. They are in the final group right now, which got split up into the top 6, where Suwon 6 basically 6 out of 6. It's a new little system I believe they changed up in South Korea right now, but they did have a decent season for Henry and Suwon nonetheless. But it is interesting to see that Henry's starting and playing as the outside right center back, a position that honestly terrifies me a little bit when he plays for the national team. So, I mean, depending on which type of players, which I'm hoping a couple other ones will come through eventually, especially Joel Waterman and someone who can kind of take on that outside right center back position. But maybe it's a reason why Greg Herbin is giving Daniel Henry the odd rep on the outside right center back. But since a couple of performances ago when he kind of had a struggle-ish game there, he hasn't really seen it there. But it's interesting to note that he's starting in that position for the Blue Wings, and he had a pretty good game and a pretty good result for them as well. Alright guys, now we're heading on over to Portugal to take a look at Steven Vitória, who had a memorable game at the weekend, as Vitória started and played all 90 minutes as a center back in a 4-2-3-1 system. He ended up scoring the 90th plus 6 minute goal. It would tie the game up 2-2. It was from a beautiful free kick, as they picked up that important point against Gil Vincent to sit 16th in the table with a 1-6-5 record. Not the greatest start to the season right now, and they're sitting in a bit of a dangerous territory, but I think that they're good enough side with Steven Vitória and his men to be able to push up the standings a little bit for a comfortable survivals type season. But to see a free kick taken with the execution of Steven Vitória was really impressive. So Stefan EUSTAQUIO, I know that you're a set piece guy because Vitória is usually so good in the air, but if those free kicks ever come close enough, you better watch out. Vitória might nudge you aside and take a slammer like that, because it was a really impressive goal. And if you did not see it, head over to our Twitter or to Canucks Abroad Twitter as well, because it's definitely on there and you'll be able to really enjoy that one. It was an absolute peach from Steven Vitória. Heading back to Russia, where we haven't been in a few weeks, to take a look at RICHIE ENNIN, whose side Nizhny Novgorod took on Krylia. It was one of those boring type matches, to be completely honest, as they drew 0-0, but it was nice to see Ennin get back in the match as he was subbed in on the 63rd minute. Didn't have a crazy impact in the match, but it is great to see him back in and hopefully going to get back to starting ways once again. With that draw, though, they sit 14th in the table with a 4-3-9 record, and they're winless in their last 7 matches. So it is still a very tough season for ENNIN so far, and we're hoping that Richie can find a way to get the back of the net, get it rolling, as he's going to be giving hopefully still plenty of chances starting in that striker position. But things definitely have to change right now, as the season is looking like it's going to be a challenging one to basically survive relegation. Moving along to Scotland now, we're going to take a look at Harry Paton. There's no update for his brother Ben Paton, who did not feature in either one of these matches, but Harry Paton, who's having a very successful individual season this year, regardless of the team results. Harry Paton, midweek, because of the makeup game, started and played all 90 minutes as Ross County beat Hibs 1-0. Paton played as a center mid in a 4-4-1-1 system, getting an assist, and he was named man of the match with a really incredible performance from him. At the weekend, Paton kept it going as well, as he started and played all 90 minutes in a 4-2-3-1, playing as a cam, a new little position for him, seeing him get a little bit up the pitch, which I kind of like. I like it because Paton's been so successful this season already, and a lot of the creativity and chances are being created through him, who usually plays a deep playmaking role. Ross County drew against Dundee United 1-1, and they still sit last in the table with a 2-4-8 record, but Paton himself is still having a pretty impressive season, and I'm assuming no matter what's going to happen, he's more than likely not going to play in the second division. He's probably going to get a transfer away, but we'd like to see Ross County start to get the results becoming a little bit more to give them a chance at survival in the Paton brothers, so they don't have to go through a relegation season. Moving on over to the Rangers now with their new manager, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. As you guys know, Steven Gerrard took the Austin Villa job, and with a new manager coming in, it's a new lease on life for a lot of players in this side, especially when it comes in terms of getting back into the starting 11. There's 2 matches to talk about, and Scott Arfield had a big part to play in one of them. But midweek, Arfield was subbed on in the 81st minute as Rangers beat Sparta Prague 2-0 in the Europa League to sit second in their table with a 2-1-2 record, looking very likely to move on to the next round into the knockout stages. And at the weekend, Arfield started and played all 90 minutes as a cam in a 4-2-3-1, an interesting role, kind of similar to Paton, a player who usually likes to play more of that 6 to 8 role, at least as where Paton plays Arfield usually with that number 8 role in a 4-3-3, giving the lease on life now starting as a 10, and had a very impressive game and scoring a really good cheeky little goal for Rangers as they beat Livingston 3-1, as they still sit first in the table with a 10-3-1 record. So performances like this from Arfield, we still don't know what his international future has in store, but we're going to pretty much find out, because I'm pretty confident, I've said this a few times, that if we don't see him in January, we're probably never going to see him again. But performances like this gets me thinking, and with the midfield depth, it'd be important to get a hold of him, and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has clearly got him in the books and starting to get some pretty impressive performances. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Stopping now in Serbia, guys, for your clean sheet update of the week. We're going to take a look at Milan Borjan, as he picked up a clean sheet in the Europa League as Red Star beat Ludogorets 1-0. In that standings right now, they sit first in the table with a 3-1-1 record, looking very solid in European competition. And then to double up on the clean sheets at the weekend, Red Star won once again 3-0, and Borjan picking up yet another clean sheet, as he's just finding them coming left, right, and center this season, which is really good to see, as Red Star sit second in the table right now with a 14-2-1 record. It's only a 2-horse race in Serbia right now, but Borjan, impressive performances keep rolling on, and 2 more clean sheets in yet another successful week for him as well as his side Red Star. Heading on over to beautiful Switzerland now, we're going to see my boy Liam Millar, as he's got a couple games to talk about as well, starting with our first UEFA Europa Conference League match, and that is one where our friend there, Liam Millar, was able to start and play 64 minutes as a left attacking mid in that 4-2-3-1 that Basel is so known for this season. They won 3-2 and still sit first in their table with a 3-2-1 record, a side looking very good in European competition right now, and hoping to see a deep little run, because I think it'd be a valuable experience for Liam Millar as well. At the weekend, Millar got a little bit of rest as he did not start, but he was subbed on at halftime, still playing at the left attacking mid position in that 4-2-3-1. Basel won 3-1 as well, and when Millar came on, he did look very dangerous throughout the course of that match. It's a win that still gives them hope for the title, as well as they sit second place with an 8-5-1 record. Millar, again, performing, playing a ton of minutes. This was even a week where he was kind of rested a little bit, but still looked very dangerous, and it's good to see as the minutes are coming thick and thin through this season for Liam Millar, which is fantastic to see, as he's going to be an asset for us come January. Moving along to Turkey, we're going to take a look at Sam Atakubi, a player who I have done nothing but praise this season. Sam Atakubi and his side Hasaspor have been absolutely incredible, and the performances from Atakubi alone got him basically a starting position right now in that left back position or left wing back position for Canada. This is the first update in a while I'm talking about Atakubi with not a poor performance specifically from him, as he was average, but a poor performance definitely from HUTCHINSON. They lost 4-0. It's a performance that was really interesting, one that you were not expecting to see, and with it, they now dropped to third in the table with an 8-2-4 record, as it's a tricky one for them. They've been so consistent, but I mean, a red card in that match didn't help it. It just, away from home, didn't look like it was going to be one of those matches that were going to come easily. They're going to have to regroup, and this is the first little update for ATIBA, where he wasn't flying with beautiful colors throughout it, which we'll see how that team can bounce back and how ATIBA can as well. Alright guys, it's time for our final pit stop here for our Canadian men's national team abroad episode, and it is going to be in the USA, where we're going to take a look at the MLS playoffs. There's a few different players to touch on. We're going to start with Alistair Johnston. Alistair Johnston and his side, Nashville, have been eliminated from the playoffs. He started and played all 120 minutes as a outside right center back in a 5-3-2 system, as Nashville lost in a shootout. One of the most treacherous shootout performances you are ever going to see. They lost 2-0 in that shootout, missing all 4 of their penalties. I've never seen anything quite like that. Andre Brake and the Philadelphia Union keeping not a clean sheet in the game, as it was 1-1, but keeping a clean sheet in a shootout is something you do not see every day. Pretty much all penalties were relatively poor. And with it, unfortunately, a heartbreaking loss for Nashville. I really thought they had an opportunity to go deep in this playoffs. Alistair Johnston, though, I love seeing him in this Nashville side playing with this back three. To clearly see what he did for the Canadian national team playing on that outside right center back, and to see him do it for Nashville is a nice breath of fresh air, as I hope a transfer is on his near future. Moving along to Ashton Morgan and Real Salt Lake, who, I mean, he hasn't featured too much for them, but I mean, he is going to be able to play a bit part role. But Real Salt Lake is the team that just keeps overachieving this playoffs, barely sneaking into the playoffs, and now going to a semifinal is really incredible, as in that first match, for you guys who did not know, they took on Seattle. Seattle Sounders are always a very impressive team in playoffs. They were able to go on and win it 6-5 in a shootout. Ashton Morgan was subbed on in the 106th minute to help close it out, and it was really impressive there to not only go on from that, but then to go on as Real Salt Lake beat KC 2-1 to head to the semifinals. Morgan did not feature in that matchup, but this Real Salt Lake team is something special. It's one of those playoff teams that you're seeing right now, and it would not surprise me to see Real Salt Lake win this title, because they got that playoff performance vibe around them right now, getting these type of gritty results, and I'm excited to see what Ashton Morgan and his side can do. And the last player we're going to touch on today, guys, is going to be Mark-Anthony Kaye, as Tajon Buchanan and his side, New England, have not played yet. But Mark-Anthony Kaye and Colorado Rapids, who had an impressive season, overachieved to get first place, realized what playoffs is all about, as they got knocked out against the Portland Timbers 1-0, and just like that, they're done. All that hard work, one game. It's part of playoffs, and it's make things fun. Mark-Anthony Kaye did start, played 83 minutes, played relatively well, but that's all she wrote for Colorado, and that's the beautiful/cruel thing about MLS playoffs. Alright guys, that brings us to an end of this episode of the Canadian Men's National Team Abroad series. I hope you guys did like it. Be sure to comment down below with any of the storylines we touched on, any transfers, or even any players that we didn't touch on this week that you'd really like us to bring back for next week, or even some players who we just haven't touched on in general. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. The support in this series always means a lot, and if we could be so kind to ask you guys, be sure to drop a like on the video today, as well as drop a sub. Help us get closer towards that 7,000 subscriber mark. And until next time, guys, take care, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers.